Hey everyone, welcome to Brian Crime TV. I'm Brian. She was a 19-year-old college student, bright and full of life. Her confidence and sunny disposition drew people in, but a sudden tragedy would cut her life short. Police arrested a suspect. Almost everyone was convinced he was the killer, but unfortunately, he was released right there in the courtroom. There just wasn't enough evidence, and the killer walked free. Left with no other choice, her parents took matters into their own hands. 5 years later, they finally got him back in court. So what would happen this time around? Let's rewind to 2017 and walk through exactly how this case unfolded. San Antonio sits in the south-central part of Texas. It's a city steeped in history, and the second most populous in the state, right after Houston. The historic landmarks, along with the lush riverwalks lining the San Antonio River, are major tourist draws, pulling in visitors from all over the world every single year. And that's exactly where our story begins. Kelly Mandadi was a beautiful 19-year-old college student. She was studying at Trinity University in San Antonio. Born on August 26, 1998, she grew up in a middle-class family in Webster, Texas. Her mother, Alison, and her father, Tariq, were both highly educated professionals. Alison held bachelor's and master's degrees in natural sciences and even started her own business. Tariq was a corporate executive. The family was doing very well financially. Kelly wasn't just cheerful and always smiling from a young age. She also inherited her parents' sharp intellect. She was incredibly bright. As their only child, she was deeply loved, and they had high hopes for her. They never put limits on her hobbies or interests. Whatever she wanted to try, they did their best to support it. When she took up hiking and horseback riding, they never held her back. It gave Kelly a truly happy and carefree adolescence. With her kind heart, she even joined a local volunteer group rescuing stray animals. In her eyes, people were meant to look out for one another. At such a young age, she'd already made up her mind about one thing. If anything ever happened to her, she wanted her organs donated to those in need. Consider it her final gift to the world. Everyone who knew her described her the same way, kind, lively, and warm. In 2016, at 18, Kelly graduated from League City High School and got accepted to Trinity University, about 120 miles from home. She was majoring in journalism and communications. Through college, she kept that same bright energy. She just radiated confidence and joy. She threw herself into sports, eventually becoming the head cheerleader. And let's be clear, that's a position with serious status. In 2017, Kelly's parents divorced. She chose to live with her mother, but stayed very close to her dad. They talked on the phone every single day. Later on, Alison remarried. Her stepfather, Lawrence Bellant, was a senior engineer at NASA, ran his own company, and was just as accomplished. Keep him in mind. He's going to play a crucial role later on. Kelly respected her mother's choice and got along well with Lawrence. The family was genuinely happy together, but a sudden tragedy would shatter that peace, turning everything to dust. At 4 in the morning on October 30th, 2017, a phone call jolted Alison and Lawrence awake. The voice on the other end delivered devastating news. Their daughter, Kelly, was fighting for her life in the hospital. Without a second thought, they got in the car and drove through the night, racing to get to her. When they finally pushed open the IQ door, the sight stopped them cold. And it broke their hearts. There was Kelly, lying motionless on the hospital bed, tubes snaked around her head. She was on a ventilator, surrounded by a wall of medical monitors. Every screen told the same grim story. Her vitals were crashing. The doctors warned them she was in critical condition. The chances of pulling through were slim. Before they could even process it, the doctors delivered the final blow. Kelly was brain dead. They just couldn't wrap their heads around it. Their bright, smiling little girl was just gone. Through the grief, they remembered something she'd told them. If anything ever happened, she wanted her organs donated to save others. Honoring her wishes, they made the donation. Alison and Lawrence couldn't understand it. She was fine the day before. How did this happen? What exactly went down in between? Soon, they got the basic rundown from police. It was her boyfriend, Mark Halton, who brought her to the hospital. He was 3 years older and built like a linebacker. Back in high school, he was a star baseball player. He lived in Houston. He wasn't a Trinity student, but he had old friends there, so he visited campus often. That's how he met Kelly. He pursued her hard and eventually won her over. After that, they were a regular sight around Trinity, always together. When police questioned him, here's what he said. On October 29th, we went to a music festival in San Antonio. We both drank a lot and took some stimulants. Around 4 in the afternoon, we got into an argument. She was still in touch with her ex, and it looked like she still had feelings for him. While we were arguing, I just drove us out of there. We made up in a parking lot. Things got heated, and we got intimate in the car. In the moment, I got excited and grabbed her by the neck. Not to hurt her, just to spice things up. At most, it was a little rough. Afterward, we chatted for 5 or 6 minutes. Then she suddenly said she felt sick and passed out. I figured it was just the drugs kicking in. Didn't think it was serious, so I started driving back to Houston. But halfway there, I realized she'd stopped breathing. I didn't know what to do. I tried everything. Nothing worked. It wasn't until 10:30 that night that I pulled into a hospital in Luling for help. Police heard his story and questioned the medical staff. But the staff didn't know much. They only knew Mark brought Kelly to a small rural clinic in Luling. Seeing how bad it was, they transferred her to a larger hospital. Sadly, they couldn't save her. If Mark was telling the truth, it looked like a sudden medical episode. Whether it was the alcohol, the drugs, or something else, no one could say for sure. And after questioning Mark, police just went quiet. But everyone who knew Kelly thought something was off. As head cheerleader, Kelly was in peak physical shape. Something like this just didn't add up. Rumors started swirling around the Trinity campus. Some said Mark killed her. That he was violent, controlling. That he was a thug dealing drugs. People wanted him banned from campus. But it was all just talk. No hard proof. With police staying silent, nobody really knew what happened. Kelly's sudden death became a campus mystery. Until 3 months later, when a report dropped and everything changed. In February 2018, Kelly's autopsy report was officially released. It clearly stated she had extensive bruising all over her body when she arrived, especially on her arms, thighs, and chest. Crucially, there were multiple blunt force injuries to her head and face, a fractured rib, and the cause of death, a brain hemorrhage that completely changed the nature of the case. It went from an accident to a homicide, and the prime suspect was obviously Mark. On February 28, 2018, police arrested him, charging him with murder. Even though Mark was the only suspect, and practically everyone believed he did it, getting a conviction wouldn't be easy. There were no eyewitnesses, no physical evidence, no witnesses. And with her organs already donated, finding more clues on her body was basically impossible. But the prosecution didn't give up. They scoured every angle. That search took nearly 2 years. In the meantime, Mark had already made bail, living his life completely free, and he'd already hired a top defense attorney. In December 2019, 2 years after Kelly's death, the trial finally began. Police had gathered a mountain of circumstantial evidence. First, the bruises from head to toe and the blunt force trauma to her face couldn't be explained by Mark's claim of rough sexual behavior. Clearly, there was criminal violence involved. Medical examiner Dr. Susanna agreed. She stated the injuries were consistent with a severe beating. Second, police tracked down an eyewitness, Kelly's ex-boyfriend, Jet Burcham. He was at the festival that day. He claimed he saw Mark and Kelly in a heated argument. Mark put her in a chokehold and dragged her away against her will. Third, Kelly's roommate testified that Mark had a violent temper and a serious control problem, and that he'd laid hands on Kelly before. It happened on September 24, 2017. Just over a month before her death, her roommate invited her to a party. Mark absolutely refused to let her go. Using his size, he violently shoved her to the ground. After the party, strange noises came from Kelly's dorm, loud enough to draw campus police. Officers checked the room and found the balcony glass door smashed. Kelly's clothes were scattered everywhere. It was obvious what had happened in there. Mark had also smashed her laptop in public. It caused a huge scene. Trinity University deemed him a threat and officially banned him from campus. It was around then that Kelly started thinking about breaking up. On the day of the festival, her roommate waited for Kelly to come back. She never did. She called Kelly's phone, but Mark answered. He just said, "Kelly can't talk right now," and quickly hung up. Fourth, medical responder Sherry Lane. He was the first person besides Mark to see Kelly's condition. Driving near the Luling hospital that night, he spotted Mark's car with someone inside in distress. Being a medic, he rushed over immediately. When he opened the door, he saw a deeply disturbing scene. Kelly was unconscious. She wasn't wearing any clothes from the waist down, and she was covered in bruises. Shariel started CPR, but it wasn't working. The hospital took over from there. He noted the passenger seat was a complete mess. It looked like a struggle had taken place. Fifth, the first officer to question Mark took the stand. The entire interrogation was recorded on a body camera. In the footage, they zoomed in on Mark's hands. They were unusually red, especially around the knuckles, like he'd been punching something. The prosecution argued it was proof he'd struck Kelly. Sixth, police had searched Mark's car and found a handgun and illegal drugs. In fact, back in 2016, Mark had already been arrested for drug possession. It didn't make him a monster, but it painted him as a serious problem. Piecing it all together, police reconstructed what happened to Kelly. Her relationship with Mark was falling apart. She was trying to leave him and trying to get back with her ex. That enraged Mark. At the festival, they clashed again. Furious, Mark forced his girlfriend into the car and drove off. And during the struggle, he beat her to death. Then he played the hero and drove her to the hospital. The theory wove together multiple witness accounts. It sounded solid. But the defense wasn't backing down. Their aggressive counterattack caught the prosecution completely off guard. Mark's defense attorney, John, immediately shot down the medical examiner's conclusion. He argued the bruises on Kelly weren't necessarily from Mark. They could have been from CPR or medications given during resuscitation. Some were even from the organ donation surgery. The broken rib, for instance, is a common CPR complication. The defense also brought in veteran forensic pathologist Dr. William looking at a skull X-ray of Kelly's. He pointed out a jagged suture line. He claimed it showed she fell, hit her head, and bled out, meaning Mark didn't beat her. Next, John went after the prosecution's witness, Kelly's ex, Jet Burcham. He pulled Jet's cell phone location data from that day. It showed Jet wasn't even at the festival at first. He was on a nearby road. By the time he actually entered the venue, it was 7:39 p.m. Kelly and Mark had already left by then. Mark's phone data placed him 10 miles away from the festival at that exact time. This was a massive blow. It meant Jet likely never saw them arguing. In other words, he was lying. And sure enough, under John's intense cross-examination, Jet admitted to perjury. On top of that, Jet had his own legal troubles. With the defense tearing the case apart, Mark stood firm. He maintained his innocence. The pressure shifted squarely onto the jury. Who were they supposed to believe? After nearly 10 hours of deliberation, the jury reached their verdict. After careful consideration, we regret to say we cannot reach a unanimous decision. The judge declared a mistrial. Mark was found not guilty. He was released right there in the courtroom. The prosecution was devastated. But Kelly's family, friends, and classmates were heartbroken. In their eyes, Mark was the killer. And watching him walk free with nothing they could do was agonizing. But this wasn't the end. Police and Kelly's family refused to give up. After the first failure, prosecutors started gearing up for a retrial. The defense wasn't sitting still either. Attorney John filed a motion to dismiss the second trial entirely, citing the Fifth Amendment's double jeopardy clause, which bars the government from retrying someone already acquitted. He even argued the prosecution had lost all credibility by presenting false testimony. Court acknowledged the prosecution mishandled witness testimony in the first trial, but they still allowed the retrial to proceed. After all, a murder had clearly occurred. They had another shot, but prosecutors weren't celebrating. They'd already exhausted their evidence in round one. Finding anything new seemed nearly impossible. That's when Kelly's mother and stepfather stepped up. If the state couldn't crack it, they would. They weren't lawyers, but as highly educated professionals, they knew how to dig. After days of meticulous review, they found a crucial detail. Stepfather Lawrence was going through the autopsy photos. He spotted a distinct, circular wound just above Kelly's right ear. Clearly, she'd been struck hard by a round, solid object. And there was bruising near her left ear. Lawrence started wondering what kind of weapon leaves a mark like that. Thinking it over, and remembering they were in a car, it suddenly clicked. The car's door lock pin, a small cylinder. Even though many modern cars don't use them anymore. Some older models still do. Lawrence quickly checked the specs of the Mercedes Mark was driving, and wouldn't you know it, it had exactly that type of lock. Lawrence theorized that during their fight in the car, Kelly was in the passenger seat. Mark struck her left side, leaving the bruising on that side. Her right side slammed directly into the door lock pin on the window, which left that distinct circular wound. Given how fragile that area of the skull is, it could very well be what caused the fatal brain bleed. Armed with this theory, Lawrence immediately started building a 3D model to test it. The simulation confirmed his hypothesis. It fit perfectly. But a model wasn't enough. He needed physical proof, so he went after Mark's Mercedes. Mark, likely feeling the heat, had sold it back in 2018. But that didn't stop Lawrence. He tracked down the new owner, and after some negotiation, he bought the car back. Next, Lawrence set up a live demonstration. He recruited 2 volunteers online who matched Kelly and Mark's builds. To ensure fairness and avoid bias, he brought in a private investigator to oversee the reenactment. The resulting impact on the volunteer's right ear matched Kelly's wound in size, shape, and location exactly. This should have been the smoking gun. But years had passed. The car had changed hands multiple times. Whether it would hold up in court was uncertain. Still, in the court of public opinion, most people already believed Mark was guilty. An online poll showed 75% of respondents thought he did it. Meanwhile, Mark was still living his best life, showing zero remorse. He was even bragging about how he beat the system in court, insisting he was innocent. His arrogance was off the charts. Fast forward to May 23, 2023, over 5 years since Kelly's death. The highly anticipated retrial finally began. Police had learned from their mistakes. They didn't just stick with murder. They added charges like aggravated assault and criminally negligent homicide. They also dropped one witness, Jet, the guy who lied last time, to avoid giving the defense another easy target. And they brought in a domestic violence expert, along with testimony from Kelly's classmates. The expert testified that Mark's behavior showed clear signs of domestic abuse. When he got angry, he was quick to get physical with her. And given his size and strength, he had no idea how to hold back. It was a recipe for disaster. To counter the defense's star forensic expert from the first trial, Dr. William, the prosecution brought in their own highly respected veteran pathologist. But surprisingly, the defense dropped that line of attack entirely this time. Finally, they presented the stepfather's demonstration video and the door lock theory. The jury didn't watch the video directly, but the detailed testimony made the point clear. After deliberating, the 12 jurors finally reached a unanimous verdict on the charge of murder. Not guilty, but guilty of aggravated assault. In Texas, that carries a sentence of 2 to 20 years. And Mark got the maximum, 20 years. Mark was finally behind bars, but for Kelly's parents, it couldn't end there. They knew there were plenty of others like him out there, ticking time bombs, waiting to hurt someone. If there was an alert system for situations like Kelly's, people could report danger in time. It could save more lives. Texas and the US already had several alert systems, like the Amber Alert for abducted children, the Silver Alert for missing seniors or Alzheimer's patients, the Endangered Missing Persons Alert for those with intellectual disabilities, and the Camo Alert for missing veterans. But Kelly's situation didn't fit any of them. For adults between 18 and 64 who go missing or face sudden danger, there was a glaring gap in the system. So Kelly's mother, Alison, teamed up with advocates to push a new alert system through in Texas. It bridges the gap between the Amber and Silver alerts, designed to help law enforcement locate missing, abducted, or endangered adults. But they didn't stop there. Alison and Lawrence also co-founded an organization in Kelly's name, Kelly's Call. Their website features a simple, powerful message. Kelly felt called to help others, to honor her. We will carry that passion and dedication forward forever. That's the story for today. If it resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. I'm Brian. I'll see you in the next one.